Cool. Got it.
All right, this is the March 8th, 2022 special meeting for the Ad Hoc Redistricting Committee. And we'll start off with a roll call for the directors. Director McKinney.
Present.
Director Cheryl.
Present.
All right, next, join me in a pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 4, public comments. There are no members of the public here, unless Dave, you'd like to comment. And online, there are no participants and nobody in the waiting room. With that, we'll move on to item number 5 for the review of the redistricting proposal maps. I will pass it over to you, Joe, and just after you're done with your piece, we'll just have time for any other public comment.
Sounds good. Hello, everybody. Good to be back. For the record, my name is Joe Armento. We're Redistricting Partners. We're a firm based out of Sacramento that helps public agencies with the districting and redistricting process. Today, we're going to review some draft maps that we created last week, and then we might narrow it down, but we'll see where to move from here with the board. But with that, I have just a quick presentation. Some of it's just going to be information you have heard by now, but it's good just to review, and then we can review the maps that we created last week. So just what is redistricting? Redistricting, again, is the process of adjusting district lines every 10 years after the census. We are actually doing districting, which is actually creating those districts for the Coastside Fire District. When we were creating these districts, we just abide by several principles. One is to create districts that are relatively equal size in people, just overall as counted by the census. The other thing is we follow the Voting Rights Act, both the federal and the California Voting Rights Act. The districts must be contiguous. The districts also should be compact. We're not drawing squiggly lines all over the place. We're going to maintain communities of interest, and we discussed this a lot last week with neighborhoods. And then we also follow those local boundaries, which again was last week. We kind of determined that the neighborhoods that you all had preset were good lines to follow in creating these districts. So just overall, though, communities of interest are like-minded people that we try to keep together. These are what dictate where the lines start, where the lines stop, is the feedback that we get from both you all, the directors, but also from the public. Again, this kind of lets us know what the shapes of the district should be. There are some communities covered under the Federal Voting Rights Act, Latinos, Asians, and African Americans. With that said, there's parameters set out by the Federal Voting Rights Act, and unless those conditions are met, you can't use race as the predominant factor for drawing districts. So we don't believe in the Coastside Fire District that the federal voting rights should come into play. There's just not enough of a minority population to create a majority minority district. So we shouldn't have to worry about that too much. Then there's the Fair Maps Act. This is partially why we're doing this. The Fair Maps Act was passed in 2019. It lays out a lot of best practices for agencies to conduct meetings, making sure that there's an open and transparent process, and making sure that the public has the ability to participate in it. Additionally, it lays out some parameters that we can't use when we're determining districts. One is we shouldn't consider the addresses of incumbents or potential candidates for office. And another thing is just not drawing districts to advantage or disadvantage a political party. These rules don't currently apply to special districts like the Coastside Fire District, but a lot of special agencies just choose to voluntarily opt into it just to be in compliance with the state law. And this is just a brief overview just to let you know that we take all the information that we gather from the public, from the directors, and we have a process where we then begin mapping that out and proposing different draft plans for you and getting your input. At the end of the day, the directors are going to be the ones that make these decisions. They're going to be the ones that direct us on how to draw these lines. We're just here to provide the data and also just to provide technical support in actually creating these districts. And overall, this is just the Coastside Fire District. This is just some overall statistics on the area. We look at both just the overall population, but also the citizen voting age population. CVAP is largely for federal voting rights issues. Because people over the age of 18 and folks that are citizens are the only people that can actually influence an election. That's why we look at that as in terms of when deciding on federal voting rights issues. But overall, we're creating districts that are going to be roughly, so there's 5 districts. The districts are going to be roughly 4,800 to 5,000 people big. We have a little bit of wiggle room to work around. And so these are just the census designated places. I don't think I put the neighborhoods on the overall map, but you'll be able to see the neighborhoods when we go through the draft plans. So we created, we at Redistricting Partners created draft plans A, B, and C, and then last week we amended to those ones. And so we'll review the original draft maps and then also walk through just the amendments that were made by the directors last week in this special task force. So draft plan A, we were largely using the highway as a main dividing point between the districts. So there were districts that were to the west of the highway and districts that were to the east of the highway. We also kept Montero whole in the northern district, and then and also kept Moss Beach mostly whole, with the exception of one small little part that was just used to connect A with El Granada. So this is what draft map A, again, drawn by Redistricting Partners, looked like. And then the overall deviation of it was 5.9%. We can't exceed 10% just due to court precedent. So we try to keep that under 10% in order to have a plan that is in compliance with the law. And then this is our just neighborhood overlay. So the swatches of different colors here. These are the neighborhoods that we defined and that we built using the merging both the census block and what was provided by the Coastside Fire District. But then we had the amendments to this plan by the directors. Basically, with version 2 of draft plan A, we just made minor adjustments to El Granada, just kind of cleaned the area up a little bit. So this is what it looked like. Most of the changes were right here. The original draft plan A went down a little bit further into El Granada. We also cleaned up the coast right here. There was a couple census blocks where I think it was right around here in the bottleneck where C kind of crossed the highway. So we just kind of cleaned that up and then didn't really touch too much on the rest of the map.
May I ask a question? Or hold my question till later?
You can ask a question now. Yeah.
Can we go back up now for a second?
Yes.
In our revisions, see the point on El Granada that goes up highest to the northeast? Hadn't we kept all of that one color?
Yeah, so this was part of, there were a few areas on this map, and you'll see that right here too, where because the census blocks don't perfectly align with the Coastside Fire District's boundaries, there's just some like irregularities right around these areas. We talked about including this, but if I clicked on this area, it would bring in like all of this back here. And so I think we decided to just keep it in District A, and then maybe see what we can work with the county on some of the unpopulated areas around here to clean up when we work with the
simpler just to go to the maps.
Yeah.
What's that?
The actual maps.
Yeah, let me just get through the presentation and then we can click on the map part. So we're at an 8.6% deviation, the biggest district being District C, the smallest district being District D in this one. So that's the Half Moon Bay district. And then this is the view with the neighborhood boundaries on it. And then we can move to draft plan B. Draft plan B was creating more of a coastal Half Moon Bay district in the middle of the fire district. We also included like northern Moss Beach with Montera. We remained the east-west split along Highway 1, and then yeah, that was pretty, those were the main difference from the last ones. So this is what it looked like as redistricting partners originally proposed it. And then the overall deviation for that was 6.6%. And then this was what it looked like with the neighborhoods. And then last week, this task force took a look at draft map B and made some changes to it. But one is a few notable ones is we added Seal Cove to the Montera district. We cleaned up Arletta Park in the south area. And then we took a look at the split in El Granada and basically split it right down the middle, as opposed to there really wasn't a reason for, or our original split was a little bit messier. So we pretty much just cleaned up the split. So this is what draft plan B version 2 amended looked like. And again, the major changes are up here with Seal Cove and Montera. We cleaned up this area and determined just to kind of split El Granada right down the middle. And then we made some changes around here with Arletta Park down in the south of Half Moon Bay. So the overall deviation for this one was 6.1, so we're within that 10%. And that was draft plan B version 2. And then we had, oh, sorry, these are the neighborhoods, so you can see the overlay. And again, the split is in El Granada for the most part, and then adding Seal Cove up here. And then we had draft map C. Draft map C had Moss Beach and with Montera, with Seal Cove in that district A. The B was El Granada with Moss Beach, with the southern part of Moss Beach. And then this one didn't use the highway as an east-west divide. We pretty much just jumped the highway and didn't use that as a boundary in the southern districts. So again, this is what it looked like as originally proposed by redistricting partners. And then the deviation was in 6.2%. And then this is what it looked like with the neighborhoods. And then the commission spent a lot of time on this one right here. We determined, the directors decided to keep El Granada whole in this amended version of draft plan C. It kept Arletta Park whole, it was originally divided, and then used Main Street and Half Moon Bay as the dividing point. And then District C, kind of in the middle, hopped the highway and included the harbor and Pillar Ridge area in with Miramar. So this is what it looked like in draft plan C. And then the overall deviation was at 7.6, so again, under 10%. And then this is what it is with the neighborhoods. And again, El Granada is kept whole in this one. And that District C hops the highway, but includes kind of Pillar Ridge area with some of these Miramar areas. And then we use, this is Main Street right here, and this is the dividing point between E and D and Half Moon Bay. And these are just a review of every plan. So again, A, this was the committee's amended version of A. And I just circled kind of where the main change was in this one, right there. In this one, this is B as originally proposed. And then these are the committee's changes to B. And these were the two changes in it. Again, Seal Cove and then El Granada for the most part is where the changes occurred. And then this is C. And then this is the committee's version of C that was amended. And then some changes around here. One is that harbor, Pillar Ridge area got added to C. El Granada got kept whole in District B. And then Main Street became the dividing point in Districts E and D. So what's next is really left up to the directors at this point. We can look at some of the maps and see if we can make adjustments, but I believe at this point that the plan is to maybe narrow it down before proposing to the full board at the next meeting. So with that, I'm happy to load up the software and then take any questions that you all have.
Just ask for public comment really quick.
Yeah.
Joe?
Mhm.
No members of the public here. And none on Zoom or in the living room.
Let's see. I have to use the big screen as my monitor, so bear with me, y'all. This was A, so we wanted to look at that one little area, right? So there. And then we are talking about this area between A and C, potentially including those into all of C, correct?
That, it's just whatever the district name for Alpharetta is that C?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
C
this is,
needs to be,
so again, in the red would be the potential changes, and then, yeah, so when you do just click on that area, just the way the census block works is it ends up taking all that in.
and a little, okay, we can change the census blocks, right? Because we made the census blocks. Correct?
We traditionally don't split census blocks unless we have to for like this area right here. Mostly because again, we don't exactly know where everybody physically lives because they don't provide us with addresses. They just tell us kind of generally how many people are within that census block. So we avoid splitting it just because we're kind of guessing at that point where people are.
Well,
So we,
yeah, help guide me here, but see that little piece up there that you're calling east, that it is called on the map east.
East
Middleborough?
Middleborough.
That is never gonna.
right,
Make any sense to me, because
You were gonna clean that up.
yeah. Again, with that one, I believe there was, I took a look at it over the weekend and there's just some weirdness to it. New district. If I click that, then I have to remove that part, but, and then also that right there. So again, we can work with the county registrar. Nobody lives in this part right here. It's just the label essentially just gets put on that part. So I know it's a little bit confusing, but
you've done such a great job so far doing this.
Mhm.
You don't wanna leave stuff out there that
yeah,
just is
Exactly.
bait for someone to say,
Yeah.
what, you guys don't know what you're doing, you know?
I think what we can do, I think I can work some PDF magic on this one and just
Oh.
move the label down here at some point. Yeah, the issue is if I select this part, maybe if I
But
just,
we'd like for, you know,
yeah,
all that to be a part of C
because this is
as well. And you
all
can-
this right here. The issue with adding this is there is housing right here, and this district is already kind of over, it's hitting the point,
4.52 out of 10%.
right? And so if we start adding these areas, then you can see with A, we're starting to kind of hit the 5%. And especially in A, we're losing a lot of
So
population really
it's
quick.
10% combined.
Yeah,
So it goes plus or minus.
Minus
Mhm.
that, okay.
Yeah.
I see.
so there is like housing right there, and so that's why there's some, we avoided some of that area, or it was splitting this area right here
And
and putting
makes
that
sense to
more
me.
of that into A.
Purple Ridge, that divider will make some sense.
Yeah.
Because Alpharetta is big and everything sort of, you know, we go along with that.
And
But
you know,
running it up the right side of that higher point and calling that East Middleborough,
mhm,
and even that little part that's on that northern edge, if you will, of Alpharetta, that's purple instead of.
Yeah.
Neutral, whatever you call it, Robert?
Yeah.
Again, I think what we're dealing here, or as you explained, census block issues
Mhm.
as opposed to real life issues?
Alternatively, what we could do too is to move A more into that area, and that would create less of this kind of mess here. But that would be moving District A more into El Granada. Yeah. But again, at this point, that could be something that you could consider a trade-off in this map is, or, a reason for not moving it forward is that when you construct the district like this, there's going to be some funkiness right here.
But if there weren't any funkiness right there,
Yeah,
and we could work this out, then map A, point one, that's what this is.
Yeah.
Would be a real option.
it would, but again, you add so many people as well that it wouldn't be able to really function like that too, because we're well over the deviation.
If we take that northern piece there.
Yeah. Yeah. Just adding a few people into this. So this one, it even just adds what, 200 people in this little tiny area right here, and you're pretty much over. You're starting to get over 5%, and then I'd have to look at the smallest district, which I believe is D in this one. So I think you might be over 10%.
Now, what happens if we see
Yeah.
the place that you're calling East Miramar right there?
Mhm.
What if that dropped down to the one below to see?
So if it's over and then everybody else is under, it's less than 10%, right?
So this D one is at negative 4.11%.
Right, so it'd be,
Right, and so if
So
it,
say-
so at this one, you'd have basically, you could have one that's like 5.9%. And that would, or 5.89, but yeah. And that would amount to 10.
so this plan, what is E?
E in this one is at 2.39 over.
So it would work. It's less than 10%, right? Unless I'm,
So if you remember, just even, this is the potential change right here. If I even just add this little tiny one right here, that's 281 people, it puts us at 5.8%. So that would be exactly at 10%, basically.
so we're still good.
Just adding this little spot,
Right.
but like,
It still leaves all that.
yeah, it leaves this and leaves that.
Which
Yeah,
is unoccupied, right?
Now it's populated.
I think this one actually has housing right there. Yeah.
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 What if we shaved off some of the ones to the south who don't consider themselves to be affiliated with El Granada anyway? Which would leave more space in Group C,
So
District C.
you're saying add some of these areas
Right.
into E and D maybe?
Wherever they made the most sense.
Yeah.
That's all half invaded. From Frenchman's Creek on down is technically in the city limits.
Let's see what we do. So let's say we just added this kind of area right here. We'll clean that. I think we can clean this up later. And maybe this. Yeah, that takes us over. So there's not too much you can add around this area. And again, this is kind of a census block issue. Is that if I take in this area, then I also have to take in these. Because they would be little islands, and we're well over, we're adding 1,500 people.
So as you actually run up the coast there, why do those things have to be taken at the same time? And you have Highland Park, you have Grandview, you have Sea Haven. Those, those are all discrete neighborhoods as you head up the 92. you know, what you have right down there at the bottom is the high school. And then right next to that, where it says 81, 80, that sort of thing,
Mhm.
that's Highland Terrace, Pacific Ridge.
Right. It's just,
There's one road in and one road out. It's a discrete neighborhood.
yeah,
And then you're gonna come up on Steve and Grandview there. Again, separate distinct neighborhoods with big spaces of field between them.
yeah. And when I click on the census block though, it takes in all of this area and then it leaves these area.
But
as
you
part of-
stated that we don't have to abide by the census block.
In very special circumstances where people don't really live, that's when we split census blocks, but it's very rare. I think, you know, where we would do that is maybe in the northern area like this right here, which is definitely kind of hillside, but it's connected to this area.
What is that? It's just called one thing.
Yeah, but
That is
it's connected to
all
like Miramar, basically.
one. It is not. I mean,
But in the block it is.
It is like, yeah, the census block kind of goes like probably up here. Or even probably around here. It follows a hill ridge or something like that. So,
that is a lot of unincorporated San Antonio County
Right.
right in there. Which includes county and state. government. Very, very few people.
and we can look at C, which is the one where we mostly keep El Granada. Or if you would like. And show what we have to do for that.
You mean the other map? See?
Yeah.
Also, will you call it Seal Beach on this map? We talked about
Yeah, you were gonna. say
Seal
that
Cove.
too.
Seal Cove.
That was one of the things. Yeah, sorry about that.
The Seal Covers will come from this.
Yeah.
Dead of night.
I can fix that in a second. So again, I think the issue with this one too is that with this area up here alone is not enough to make up one district. And so it has to get population from somewhere. And it's either going to go into Moss Beach a little bit more, or it has to snake down the highway and grab some of Clipper Ridge and El Granada.
I'm not as strong with better as you are.
Right.
It could certainly grab the ridge. Or if that crosses the highway too much, it could come from the side.
And keep in mind, this is only one out of 6 currently.
Yes.
But it seems to me that A2 is our closest. If we can make A2 work,
Okay.
then we can have A2 plus the other two places. I'd like to have one that actually works for neighborhoods here.
Right. But we also talked about having 1 or 2 that get tossed out immediately, but so in this configuration, this is the second one, A2.
Yeah, this is A2, the one you
Okay.
all play with. Yeah.
So District A is 1.57 under, B is under, C is over, but we're still good.
Mhm.
D is under, we're still good in there. And E, how is E so? E would work too.
He works, yeah.
It's big, but it works because it's just not enough people.
Right. The majority of the population live north of 92.
Yeah.
They are centered in El Granada and Half Bay.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say for E, most of the population is in this Ocean Colony kind of area. And then we take a little bit from Half Moon Bay and then a few of the,
That's the North Main Street goes to.
I think in this one, do we do mess with Main Street? It mostly uses Main Street, yeah. And then it kind of curves around just because we need this to make it contiguous.
You're happy, I'm good,
The rest of them are.
Okay.
Overnight,
but fine enough.
okay, because I just have that sneaky feeling that northern piece is split.
Sure, something's not that, you'll just fix it.
And
Yeah, I mean, there's ways you can make it more like aesthetically pleasing, like if you take, put some of this in A and maybe,
There are things that's running out north that has to be one.
and this
Okay,
is
quit
all.
doing that.
This
Can't we
is,
just make this? Can this section, because there's nobody in there, just be in here and see?
I
What's
think
the big
there,
deal?
so put this part right into C. And then maybe like this,
And that part too.
this right here and this,
Yeah, it's 3 people.
okay. And then I'm just trying to, we're at 4.52 and A as well. Yeah, so I can add that and then work with our team to see if we can split the census block right here. To see if anybody lives in it, but again, I think it's mostly uninhabited, right?
And we'll have some explaining to do about that piece that's between,
That guy right there,
uh,
that guy.
the red guy's gonna turn beige, right? In 1 second.
Yeah, so I'm happy to add that.
And the big A piece is gonna
I
turn
don't-
beige. So the whole peninsula is beige. And the explaining part is down to the left.
Right.
It doesn't look like we can live in the population from the south.
No.
We're able then to pick up that space between all the island and the ridge.
Right.
That's going to turn into the ridge.
So put that into C and then include this area in C.
Including that little white space over there. Right there.
I'll do this on a new. And then I'll make a note to add this. We have to do some computer magic to do that.
Okay, Bruce, do you see those folks? In the streets, but it's that point where you,
42
Which one are you looking at?
it's,
here.
yeah, that part, like that whole purple part right there. See, there you go.
Like
This is what
this?
we're gonna have to explain, right, that, and then as it comes around on the top. And
This
comes
guy
down
there?
there, right, that whole section, until it moves further to the west, and then it's called Whipper Ridge, okay? So like you can move. Move the camera this way, and the screen this way,
Mhm.
right? See Coral Reef, that's the main road that you'll take with the ridge. So the people will have to explain this to these guys, because they think that they live in Alpena. Right?
Only because they do.
only because they do. So this is kind of the awkward piece of it. Now there's one road in and that's Coral Reef, and then this is a back road that goes back into El Granado, which is it's a neighborhood road.
Mhm.
It's used as a fire escape. And the people there argue with each other about whether they live in El Granado or People Ridge. But these folks are gonna say, huh, that's so weird that you're including it on
And again, the reason we're doing that is because just to balance the population. So both C would become too big at 17.8% over, and A would become too small at 14.85% under. So again, that like Montera, as I was saying earlier, let's zoom out.
Not simple, is it?
I think this is.
So again, Montera by itself, because most of the population of Moss Beach is actually in,
Because we're another round.
Okay. So I think this one. What is that little one? That red is the magic that you're gonna somehow.
the red right here, that would be if we kept El Granada whole.
Okay, so we can't, it's gotta be part of A.
Yeah,
And that
So
part
it's
has
going to
be part
become
of A.
purple. Got it.
yeah.
Okay.
So it already is purple on this map. So let me fix it up, right?
Okay,
So,
I see it.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
we're gonna clean up the rest of that purple. that
right,
comes
the
up
little
with-
squiggly, yeah, right up there.
And that chunk.
Yeah, so like this guy, we'll clean that up.
Like, right. Okay, good. I think this is as good. If we can't change the southern parts to reflect the reality of the situation, are all redistricts structured into these census blocks?
Yeah,
It's kind of silly.
Yeah, I mean, the rationale is the census doesn't want to release individualized information for privacy concerns, so they create these blocks, but they're sort of arbitrary blocks that the census just draws on their own. And then unfortunately, we're stuck, trying to work with blunt tools to do a very precise thing.
Well, I think
It's the
this,
government.
thank you all for Ward and Joe. Thank you so much for trying to fine tune this. I know it's mutually frustrating for you too, so I appreciate that, but I think this A, B two is, and then Bruce, you want to lead the way into the next
Sure,
options that you'd like to see?
for the next one, right?
happy to go to wherever you want to take.
Yeah, you want B or C, Bruce?
I think B, let's run through it in order.
Did you want the ones you all worked on last week?
Yes, please, unless you want something.
No, no.
Okay,
Ones we want.
Again, that's seal code. I will fix that on the neighborhood file. Okay, so this is draft plan B. Again, most of the changes we made last time was again playing with El Granada. And this one splits in the middle, but has a seal code, Moss Beach, Montera district. And then kind of a coastal Half Moon Bay one. I can zoom out so y'all can see. Oh. Get back. Any new changes you want to make to this one? Anything you'd like to
for
discuss
me, I
around
don't
it
really
too?
care for this one at all, so,
We don't have to, yeah, that's the thing.
But it can be one of the three that we take to the board.
It doesn't have to, or, yeah, well, it doesn't have to be.
Mhm.
We can keep the original and take it.
That's fine too. This-
Or if we want to take four, we can take one of these.
But what we're trying to do is make it as
Simple.
clear and simple as possible.
Clear as mud.
So if the better option is to take three and hear the discussion of the other directors, that's fine.
Okay,
It doesn't, and we have a, do we have a recommendation list from our ad hoc committee here?
this ad hoc person doesn't care for this one at all. Should we toss it?
Well, sure. Or we could come up with a general overall thing saying I'm going to present more than one, but recommend one.
3 modified? Like the 3 modifications we've done,
Okay. And recommend A.
A or whatever one we come up with. Let's look at C next,
Okay.
and then we can,
To move to C, right?
Mhm.
For what it's worth, I think probably your best bet to make the most sense to everybody is to take a recommended map and explain why it's the recommended map. And then if the other 3 board members say, we just aren't on the same page with you, have the other maps available to,
sure.
at that point.
Yeah, this logical.
And you can make all 3 available ahead of time. I'm not saying,
That
Hide
is a
them.
great way forward.
But I
What do you
think-
think about
Yes, 100%.
that? Okay.
Great.
And, so is Plan A revised, a recommendation?
I believe so this time.
well, let's look at C real quick. And if you
Exactly.
have anything that sticks out, we'll talk about that.
So with C, the main thing in this one is El Granada is kept whole, is together in one district. That's B. Seal Cove and Montera, Moss Beach are in one district. And then we used Main Street as a divide in E and D. And then C kind of just ends up taking in the remaining neighborhoods in the area, and it jumps Highway 1. It includes the harbor with kind of some of the hillside country area with Miramar. So,
So that seems like the main trade-off, right? You're getting El Granada all together, but you're sacrificing the Highway 1 being the dividing line.
Yeah.
For the district south of there.
I don't care for this one
And you're just looking at it from the eyes of people who live here.
Yeah.
And what's going to make sense in terms of the mental maps
either. Justification to our.
Yeah.
our
of
citizens.
constituents, right? So that's, so we can run with B version 2 and C version 2 as 2 alternates if the remainder of the directors are not pleased with the revised Plan A. But Plan A is our, Plan A revised is our recommendation. As revised today, is that we think?
I guess it would be B3, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yeah, Bruce, are we good?
So with A3
A3, A3.
is
that's
our recommendation, but we're gonna take 3 to the full board.
Yes,
A3, B2, C2. Whether 3 are taken.
Sure, because I don't care for the last 2. Okay.
So I think probably the way to handle that then is in terms of public notification and publication, we just put out A3 as sort of the map that we're coming in to discuss primarily. And then as part of the staff report that just, gets put on the website and goes out to the board, we can include the other 2 maps.
Sure.
We'll just have a brief discussion in the staff report about why A3 is the recommendation and why the other 2 are available but not recommended.
That's what we're.
Great.
we'll work on cleaning this area up, but
Yeah.
aside from that,
What's it, seal what? Joe?
Seal Cove.
We're
I can
gonna
actually,
get
I'll fix that right now. Just so I have a
And that
mental
little
note.
piece up there that says East Miramar will no longer say East Miramar.
Yeah, I'll try that as well. Oh, I can actually just move the label. That's the easiest one. Neighborhoods.
Peace on the person.
There's no such thing.
I don't know, we're aiming for peace on the person. We have been.
But yeah, if that's the plan of attack, I'll just fix the neighborhoods right now.
Do I want to check if there's anyone on? I doubt it, but sure, just in case somebody
Yep.
has a thought.
No members of the public on Zoom and no one in the waiting room.
Okay,
Thank you for your arduous drive.
Increasing the motion a second to adjourn the meeting.
I move that I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
So moved. Motion passed.
great, nice job.
Code. All right.